an anime store.
We're live.
That's awesome. Hello. Sorry for guys for the delay. But thank you guys so much for being here and being willing to join us.
Uh-oh.
Why somebody is feeding back? Okay.
Who is it?
It is.
Who is it? I will find you and I will shut you down.
Somebody.
Representative Miller.
It must be. It must be. But he must. Are you playing it off of YouTube? Somebody playing. Anyway, all right. I'm gonna go ahead.
He muted himself.
Okay, so hey, but welcome back to Out of the Darkness. I am once again your host, Q. It is very fascinating to be here after all that I have been through today. Wow. Let me just say that Minnesota roads, especially the road that I had to take to get here, leaves a lot to be desired. So we need to talk about that, Representative Miller. Because we pay way too much in taxes to drive on roads like this. So, and I'm sure you're working on that. You do such a great job for us over in St. Paul, but we'll get to that. Man, we are so blessed to have Tim here with us, Mr. Miller, back by popular demand. Everyone's been asking for our resident extraordinaire of all things politics. So thank you for being here. And believe it or not, Dr. B, overwhelming support for what you bring to the show, and so a lot of people wanted to have you back. And with everything that we have, we knew that 2020 was going to be a huge year for our channel, solely because we knew that people would be looking for alternative information from a I guess we'd be somewhat biased. I'm not going to lie and say we're completely unbiased, Soder.
I am 100% biased.
We are.
Me too.
We are biased, but at the same time, I think we are fair as well. And we are not completely in the tank for either party. But at the same time, there are a lot of things going on in our nation, a lot of things going on that are being accepted as mainstream that we know will not make us better, but will send us to the dark ages, right? It's been said that those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Right. And so we've seen this project play out several times before, and it has always ended in heartache. So, but if you're wondering, unless you've been living under a rock, you're probably wondering, what are we talking about? We are talking about, in our lifetime, we are watching the Democrat Party, a major party in the United States, that are really being taken over by socialists. Now, I know that some of you guys out there watching that are woke know that this isn't new. The Democrat Party has been the party of socialism for a very long time. But we finally have some people who are honest enough to be honest enough with us to actually call it what it is, right? And that's really what people are reacting to, right? They're reacting to the fact that people are finally calling it what it is, that Bernie Sanders is being given a platform. And they feel that the American people are ready to embrace this socialist agenda. And in a lot of ways, I'm concerned they are. There is a group of people who are willing to openly embrace this. I'm seeing it on Facebook, other social media platforms where people are just, they're in the tank. They're 100% in the tank for what we have going on. I want to, before we get into that, I really want to talk about this, but last week I had a few people that came back and they said, no, Dr. B is wrong. Can you believe that? Someone said you were wrong, Dr. B. They said that the incubation period for the COVID-19 virus is not 28 days, that it is 14 days. And then it came out this week that the Chinese government has now found that it is a 27-day incubation period. So you were right. Many of us were wrong. And that's why we are glad to have you here to keep us on the straight and narrow and to give us the truth. So thank you for that. Mr. Miller. We can't hear you, man. You are muted.
I didn't know if I was the feedback.
You might have been, but it's okay. It's all right. But yeah. So this is. I think you met Stephen Powell at one point. He was on the show. You and him have had some very fun exchanges back and forth, and as we typically do. But this is his mother.
Hi.
Yeah,
Hi there.
yeah. You would never know it because she's highly intelligent, very kind, very sweet woman. We're not sure exactly what happened to Stephen Powell, but he must have taken he must have taken after the other side. So
Yeah, those hateful what was he again? Those hateful Cubans.
Yeah, he's very kind and sweet. Although he does look a little bit like my ex-husband.
So, but yeah, let's get right into it. Let me ask
wait. Before we get too far,
yeah,
we have Osmodius's super chat from last week that he sent in at the end and we never got to.
Okay.
Osmodius for $10. Government shouldn't be involved in marriages at all.
Well,
wow.
I agree. But it does resolve a lot of property issues. And that's, and while I think a lot of that can be done with domestic contracts, I think marriage is a function of the church. But it's already been decided, pretty much at the state level. And I think you'd have to have several states uniformly enact legislation to change marriage to a civil contract if you were going to do that. It's either all the states or none of the states. So it is what it is. That's what we got.
Well, that's not exactly the way it's supposed to work in a republic, but
That's usually when you call me a boomer.
You know what?
Right.
Huh?
She's right.
What exactly? Which part is she right on?
Pretty much everything that she said.
But didn't she just say that marriage is a church function?
Yes. And that you could argue that it shouldn't be part of government, but historically it has been, and you'd have to change it all pretty much at the state level across probably all states. She said most states. It's probably all states.
I mean, kind of like what Minnesota did. How long ago was it? When they updated the marriage?
Sex?
Yeah, when they had made same-sex marriage a thing.
13. Yep. But still the state sanctions and licenses marriages. It's just broaden the definition of who can get married. That's all.
I went in to get my new driver's license, and thank you so much, Tim. There's a new form now, so I can choose between either male, female, or non-binary now. So
good.
Thank you for all your hard work down there.
Did you get your real ID?
I did. I got my real ID. So now
you didn't have to. You know that, right?
I do know that, but I don't like traveling across state lines with my
passport.
With my passport, so it's not really. I'd rather leave that at home if I'm staying within the United States.
With your passport, they don't know when you're passing across state lines. With your real ID, they do.
Yeah.
Oh, how is that?
There's the whole problem. Well, there's a couple problems with real ID, but one of the key things is germane to what he just talked about is that with real ID, your data is shared between the states.
Right, but how do they know if I've shifted states or
no? They don't literally know when you crossed over the border. I mean, a little bit.
I was thinking there was like a chip ID.
Yeah, well,
I was already getting very upset.
Baxter is joining. My dog Baxter is joining the fold here. It looks like so. No, there's no chip ID that when you go across, at least not yet. So
at least not yet.
Well, they don't get mine until I think at 2032.
2032.
It's when I have to go back in to renew. Yeah, so that was the big selling point for me is It was, I don't have to renew every 2 years anymore. It's good for like
Yeah.
the next 12 years.
Wow. Wow.
Here in
And when you're in your
Minnesota,
60s,
here
it's
in
a good deal.
Minnesota, long story short, it's easier to get a passport and a regular driver's license. It's less complicated than getting the real ID. Matter of fact, when I went to the county, they even recommended that. So, so that's what I have. I have a
Yeah.
good old fashioned driver's license, and then I have my passport.
I can't imagine.
I have real ID. It's not an easy process to go through.
No, it's not. But I figured I'd rather just go through it and not have to deal with it anymore. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but
So
yeah.
hey, here's quick Q.
Yes, sir.
So you texted me that I really need to come on and talk about a subject, and I just want to let you know that I'm on till probably about 8, which means maybe about 8:10 or 8:15. But I've got stuff I have to do tonight before I take off for St. Paul first thing in the morning. So I'm here on limited time.
You are on the count. So I wanted to have you come on. I want to talk about this socialist agenda. Obviously, that's something I really want to get into. But I feel that in the conversations that I've had with a lot of fellow, let me just get on my soapbox really quick, okay? With a lot of my fellow conservatives, one of the things that I've been very disappointed by is the fact that they have all kind of said, well, Bernie's not really serious. Bernie's not going to win the presidency. President Trump is going to win. That's just all there is to it. America will never accept socialism. Okay, that's fine. And I do believe that Trump is going to win, and I think you probably believe that. In fact, I know you do because you texted me that in not so many words, Tim, earlier today. The problem that we have is that there is a machine, there is a group of people in the United States right now who believe with everything in them that socialism is the way to go for whatever reason. Okay. If we don't defeat that idealism, if we don't defeat that machine now, our children will live under a socialist government. Okay. It's not a joke anymore. It's not anything cute anymore. We're really fighting for the soul of our nation. And I know that, man, we laugh at the boomers because they've been talking about that for years, right? And we laugh, oh gosh, yeah, every election we're fighting for the soul of our nation. But really and truly we are. I mean, and we've strayed very far away from what our country and what our republic was meant to be. But I feel that the reason why our generation is not ready to defeat socialism or to defeat this machine is that I have not heard a lot of people make an educated argument against socialism. Most people are not really ready to give an academic argument for socialism, or I'm sorry, against socialism, or even a political argument against socialism. They say, well, socialism is bad. Well, why? Well, that's just government taking more from the people and giving it to other people. Well, okay, but why is it bad? How is it bad for me? But the one thing I wanted to talk to Tim about is yesterday I got a bunch of people that text me and they said, "Can you believe that there's Republicans that are coming out for Mike Bloomberg?" And it's not. Let me look at that. That's interesting. And of course, you know, the primary one was right, Clint Eastwood. There was even some talk of Mitt Romney coming out in support of him, talking about how he's a great guy and different things like that, which, you know, should be no surprise. But Tim, walk us through that. Walk us through. Explain to us how concerned should we be that a Michael Bloomberg, someone who was once considered to be a Republican, is running for that office, and how does that affect the vote come February? I mean, come November.
Sure. Well, first of all, your opening monologue, your narrative on the, you know, we talk about how this is the next big election, and yet this really is spot on. Matter of fact, Tuesday night here in Minnesota, we have our caucuses, as you know, and being a state representative, really being a candidate for next year is probably more of the role that brings me into the caucus. I can't be everywhere at the same time. I have a big district, so I have a letter that's going to be read at the caucuses, and I basically said everything that you just said. This is really, when I first started writing my letter, I had said this is probably the biggest election that we've had since, I don't know, I went way, way back. And as I was writing it, I thought, let's get a little more realistic. This is probably the biggest and most comparative election since Reagan's first term. And what I mean by that is when Reagan was elected, we were questioning whether we could really stand up against the Soviets. And had we lost our position as the world power and the voice of a republic in the world of democracy, I have to kind of qualify the way I say that, right? Don't get people worked up. We're not a democracy, but democracies throughout the world. We were the beacon of light and hope for that. And was Soviet Union and communism taking over? Well, this year it's really very similar, only it's for the heart of our own nation against socialism. Hold on one second. Jacob, you have to go.
You're talking.
I'm on the phone. Please, sorry about that. My son just walked in. And if I gave you details, you'd understand why I'm really trying to hesitate here. So I was in the middle of it. Jacob, you need to go, please. Okay, quickly. Sorry about the pause here.
You're fine.
I have to be very careful which direction my camera angles right now. I'll just say that, okay? Jacob, go back to your room, buddy, okay? No, you cannot see. Go, please. I have a son with autism, and his favorite pastime is to have no clothes on up in his bedroom. So that's why I was trying to keep from him getting into the camera to say hello. So anyway, sorry, that was right in the middle of my diatribe. So back to what I was going to say is this election really is about the creep of socialism from within this time. And you're absolutely right about we need to take this very seriously. And it doesn't surprise me that it appears that Bernie Sanders is going to start steamrolling the Democrat side. There's a little bit of time left. There's some things that could happen, but he's certainly in the position. And if 4 years ago is any indication, people kept saying it was never going to be Trump because surely someone else is going to step forward, and yet all the momentum was there for him. I think it's very similar with Sanders here. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, what you're seeing with Bloomberg, in my opinion, is we are asking some fundamental questions about our nation in this election, which, by the way, is a very good thing. That's never a bad thing. That's always a good thing. When we start talking, that's when good things tend to happen. Maybe that's where my optimism is. But what's happening is, if you remember a couple of weeks ago, Mitt Romney supported the impeachment, right?
Sure.
And he got kicked out of CPAC, and everyone boos him now and stuff like that. But he's a part of the establishment that we've been talking about now for a while, that really Michael Bloomberg is part of, Nancy Pelosi. There's probably several other names that aren't quickly coming to mind. I don't want to give an exhaustive list, but you get the general idea. And what Trump did was he kind of messed up that system. Well, on the other end, so has Bernie Sanders, right? And they're really mixing it up. So if you see some, I tried to search the Republicans that are supporting him. I heard Clint Eastwood. To me, the quote from Clint Eastwood was just kind of a thumbs up sort of thing. I don't know that he's like joining the campaign trail with Michael Bloomberg, but there's probably some other people. There's probably some rumored other people that are dissatisfied with Trump. But I want to, if you heard me 4 years ago, I just want to contrast this. 4 years ago, it was still about 10 o'clock at night on election night where I still said Hillary Clinton's going to win the presidency. I thought we had just fallen off the cliff and there was no return. It wasn't until we started hearing about Wisconsin and Michigan, and I think there was one other state, and I'm like, holy buckets, this may actually happen.
And if it weren't for Soder and his friends, he would have won Minnesota too. But we'll leave that alone for now.
So anyway, the reason why I say that is this year, I feel that I'm very sober in saying that I have a high level of confidence that Trump would win against any Democrat. Okay, I think some people thought when Bloomberg comes in there's a real challenge because he's going to moderate it. You know, he'll bring in Amy Klobuchar here from Minnesota as his running mate, which, by the way, could happen. And all of a sudden, the jig is going to be up. Well, then a funny little thing happened last week called that debate. Now, normally presidential debates don't carry a ton of weight. It's usually if you say something really stupid or something memorable, you might get yourself in a lot of hot water, or you may jump forward if you say something that really locks it in. But what happened with Bloomberg is he was basically found out to be who he really is. Now there's, and I'm almost wrapped up here. I won't dominate this whole thing, but just to wrap this up, in politics, in an election, there's a phrase that you have to know your pathway to victory. Okay, so a couple of years ago, I was running for U.S. Congress, and I thought I had a pathway, and as things developed, I didn't have the pathway. And it could be anything from the quality of the candidate you are, the ability to raise money, whatever, the timing. There's just different things, okay? I don't see Michael Bloomberg's pathway to victory because his pathway is through the Democrat Party. And if you remember Q, it's been a while. If you remember Q, I had you Google, because I did this, and I Googled news. I did Google News and I searched for Republicans supporting Michael Bloomberg. And like the top 20 articles were basically just Democrat blogs ripping on Bloomberg and how he's a poser and terrible and stuff like this. Okay, he doesn't have a pathway in the Democrat Party. And you're saying, well, sooner or later, the Democrat Party is going to wake up. I can tell you we've been in session in Minnesota for 2 weeks, and the ultra-left socialists are still totally dominating the Democrats in Minnesota and their policy making. They're going for broke. They think that they're the ones that are right, and they're not going to let some old guy, I don't know if the Democrats call theirs boomers also, but they're not going to let some old white rich guy be the face of who that party is. They're just not going to do it. So that's why I don't think Bloomberg's going to be their candidate no matter what happens.
I see Bloomberg as being this generation's Ross Perot, and that's what concerns me, because I could see a pathway by which he's already put his chips in and he's looking to buy his way into the race. So the concern for me is that he would be a third party option, which could cause some issues. But there's also a point forward by which he causes a brokered convention, which would be fascinating to see from my end. But so while we got you here for a minute, there's a reason. It's easy to dismiss all of this, to say, you know what, the millennials are just stupid and this generation's just dumb and they don't want to work and they're just lazy, and that's the reason why they're going for the socialism route. But I feel like that would be a very intellectually lazy way to move to view this, right? We have a generation of young people who are looking at a few short decades, a couple decades ago. When my parents bought their first home, they bought a very, very nice home for $70,000, right? Very nice home. That house today would sell for about $300,000 today in the same community. You look at a situation where in the mid 70s, a person making $15 an hour that was willing to work 60 hours a week could have their wife at home with the kids, could have 2 decent vehicles, and go on vacation twice a year, right? And so we also look at a group of people who have seen their parents, because of whatever you want to call it, go through a recession and lose their homes. We have kids who are voting now who have never known this country not at war in the Middle East. The country's been at war ever since the day that they were born. They know people personally that have gone to Afghanistan, gone to the Middle East, gone to Iraq, and have died. So along comes Bernie Sanders, and he offers them another way. I know for myself, before all of this Affordable Care Act stuff came about, we were paying about $500 a month for our health care insurance. Okay, with a $1,000 deductible. Now our health care insurance is over $2,000 a month. We have a $10,000 deductible. These people see these types of things, and so it's understandable why they would embrace this man who's coming out with this new idea of taxing the rich. We've seen the rise of the what was that group, the Occupy Wall Street movement. We've seen that come about, right? So the only way that we're actually going to defeat this socialist agenda, and there are people in this chat right now, I know for a fact, I've seen a couple of them in here, that are going to vote, that are planning to vote for Bernie. So from an economic standpoint, I want to ask Dr. B, from an economic standpoint, why does socialism not work? Why would that give us an adverse effect of what we are going for, what these people are looking for? Because I believe that they're sincere in what they want. They want fairness, right? They want a strong middle class, and they just want to see things fair. And they don't like the idea that a bunch of billionaires are essentially running our country. So explain to us from an economic standpoint why Bernie is not the answer.
Well, I think the issue is actually more fundamental than that. I think it's the issue of just anytime you have centralized authority, you're going to have it managed for the benefit of those in power and not for the benefit of those who are presumably served by it. I mean, let's be honest. Has anybody ever gone to the VA for their health care? That's government-run health care. Talk to any senior citizen who is on Medicare and tell me if that's what you want for all people. Oh my goodness, no. That is not a superior system. Anytime, the function of government is to protect the people, protect property rights. When you try to take government and make it do something beyond what it was designed to do, you're going to request of that system something it was not designed to do. And quite frankly, you have, just to give you an idea, you see the Iowa caucuses, right? Do they still know today who won that? Okay, and what happened? You app failures and everything else. What do they think will happen with Medicare for all? If you can't run a caucus, if you can't run an app on a caucus, right now, Nevada is still projected. They still don't actually have all the votes tallied yet. I mean, you're having a heart attack. You need a response that's far more quicker than what they've been able to provide. Granted, certain other medical conditions, well, you got a wart on your finger. You could probably wait a day or two on that. But, you think about critical care problems. They can't wait for the kind of responses that you're going to have in a Medicare for all kind of system. Now, I feel people's angst at the medical system. I think our medical system does need to have some changes, but I do not believe it's Medicare for all.
So let me stop you there real quick, because I do want to get into this, but you brought up something that was really, and your son is laughing at you right now in the chat. He's saying Republicans talking about the evils of centralized power. Ha 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 ha. Okay, so that's a quote from your son. All right, so
yes, I know.
Okay, so but he's right in a sense. And Tim, you brought this up earlier, and I want to hear from you real quick on this, because I think part of the reason is that we actually gave up a lot of this ground as conservatives, right? The past generations brought about socialist ideas because they fit the narrative. They fit us, right? There were things that we wanted to accomplish, and so we introduced socialism light, in a lot of forms, right? So how do we combat Bernie Sanders when he's simply trying to expand on something that we've already introduced?
Oh, my turn?
Yes, sir.
Here's the first challenge is the fundamental position of a true conservative versus the fundamental position of a progressive is that progressives by nature in their practice they offer things. We can do this for you. We can give you this. We can spend money. And we see that in session this year, it's all about we have a $1.3 billion surplus. Might be adjusted a little bit here in a week. We'll see. Let's just for the sake of argument say we've overtaxed people by that much. Well, all the conversation is basically how we can quote unquote do better things for people. Another challenge that we have in our society, which is the thing that I grouse on the most, is there's this presumption that money solves all problems. You can fix a problem just by funding some program that addresses that problem. And now I can't say that like there might be some example you could throw at me where funding might do something, but even in those cases, and in most cases, funding begets new challenges or new problems. One of the biggest problems is that it takes independence away from people. It takes self-reliance. It certainly takes away accountability. And that's kind of the slippery slope that we've had post World War II. We've had a very wealthy nation. We've been a world leader. And when there's a problem, we throw money at it. You can laugh, but I had a college professor that said our modern day politics are defined around the fact that we put a man on the moon. Why? Because we said we're going to have a man on the moon in 10 years, and with a ton of funding and with the will of the people, we accomplished it. So we've built a model for ourselves that everything in our nation, if we really, really want to do it, we can do it. So that includes fixing. So war on poverty, war on drugs, war on whatever else. And the model with that is of course, if you go to someone and say, look at Canada, they have socialized medicine and that works great. First question you ask people is where do Canadians go if they really need health care? They come down here. So what does that tell you about the system? So that's the challenge. I'm not saying that, I kind of told you, it sounded like a whiny crybaby on how conservatives can't counter that image or message. But it does take a lot of boldness. It takes courage to stand against that, to vote against spending more money, because you tell people, no, I have people in my house the last couple of weeks that want to have new ways to spend money. And I've told them no. But
and when you're in the state legislature, you will get calls, especially on healthcare issues, of people screaming and crying and, all kind. Oh my goodness. It's an amazing process.
Well, and it's tough. It is. And it's tough because let me give you a really fast one, really, and I'll try to be as brief as possible. But there's a woman who's part of an organization that advocates for autism. Well, as I just told you a little while ago, I have a son that has autism. Okay. And she said she wanted to create a fund where city and county governments, anyone that has a building, can apply for a grant to get sensory sensitive items there, so someone with autism can use them. So whether it's headphones or whatever, a series of things. And she says this is a great thing because people with autism have challenges when they go into a building and they just can't get the services like everyone else. You're sensitive to that. I have a son with autism. I know exactly what she's talking about. But I told her, and again, trying to be very brief here, I said, in your mind, you have the 10 items that every building should have that would basically address what you're saying. And she said, she didn't say yes because she probably had 12 in mind or something. And I said, but here's the problem. 5 years from now, there's going to be 50 things that people think all these buildings should have. And I said, even worse, and here's the real problem in government, is you're going to have special interests. They're going to prey on your autism and use it as an excuse to do what they want and to get funding in those places. And you're going to say, hey, wait a second. The 6 things they want to do in the county building have nothing to do with autism, but they're telling everyone that it is. That takes me off. that's what the creeping progressive movement does, is they capitalize on things that we're sensitive to, maybe even realistic, and they expand upon it. Because the thing that young people need to understand is that socialism, and Doctor, you said it very well, it's the people that are centralized and in control of that they're doing things that benefit them, not the people that they supposedly serve. And so the argument against socialism is that you are giving up a whole lot of freedom. You're giving up a whole lot of decision making in your life for quote unquote something you're receiving or for the common good, and it simply isn't there. You are not getting the return on that investment, if you want to call it an investment. There is absolutely nothing good about this, in that it just creates more and more control, centralized control, and you're getting nothing in return. Now, I don't like it for a lot of other fundamental reasons, but if you're in this for what do I get out of it, in socialism, you're not getting anything out of it.
So Tim, I've met a lot of Republicans, in some that you and I both know, that 20 years ago would have been considered socialist, right?
Well, Democrats.
Well, okay, I would have considered them socialist.
Hold on, Q.
Right?
Here's an important thing, though. We have fun on this show, and you guys have fun. It's fine calling me a boomer, and even if you really mean it, I don't care. And people on here in the past have called me communist.
Okay, so the boomer thing, we're serious about the boomer thing.
I know, but no.
But we're not serious about the communist thing.
Here's the deal, though.
He's so young. Don't say that.
There are socialists in the Democrat Party. Okay. I don't like what some of my Republican counterparts that are elected in office, that I think they kind of get weak in the knees, or maybe even they buy into some of this for the common good sort of thing. But they're not socialists. Okay. Words have meaning, and if everyone is a socialist, then basically you're not talking about the intrusion of socialists. So you're right.
Okay,
before Reagan, that's who the Reagan Democrats were moderate Democrats who were social conservatives in the South, and they couldn't put up with where their party was going on issues of life or guns, or there's probably 2 or 3 other things that are kind of basic, maybe some fiscal responsibility and stuff. And he got them to buy into him, but they weren't socialists. So when I speak about socialists, I am speaking of people who embrace socialism, right? When I speak of socialism, I speak of first off, the government being given more control over our daily lives, the government being given oversight over private industry, not necessarily the government taking over the control of production, but being given oversight over those industries, so much so that they can control production and then tax that production as well. So, and I know a lot of Republicans who espouse those ideas. So even though it might not be comfortable to call them socialist, where else do I put them except for in that socialist box? I'm not saying it to be mean, but no, hold on. Now this isn't a personal thing where it's mean and their feelings are hurt or something like that. Okay. And if the most that I'll grant you is it kind of like a socialistic tendency? Absolutely. Okay. But I don't know. I haven't met a single Republican that supports socialism. And that's why I'm saying
I understand, but it's semantics, though, Tim.
Semantics are very important here.
But no, it's okay. I get that it is very important. But what do you call? Okay, so what do you call the IRS? Is that not would you not consider that to be a socialist organization?
The IRS?
Would you not? You need an IRS in order to advance socialism, right?
Yeah, but here's, again, this is the fundamental problem we're going to have. If you're going to say that the IRS is socialism. Okay.
I'm not.
Then
I'm saying.
what-
I'm saying that it is. I'm saying that you cannot have socialism without organizations like the IRS, right? We talk about.
Yeah, but you also can't have government if you don't have a taxing entity. Now, I don't like the IRS. Don't think I'm defending the IRS. I think it's, but if so this is where I have a difficulty with my fellow friends here are true blue libertarians. Is they're like, get rid of taxes, get rid of this.
I'm not here to tell you that, but things like Social Security, things like Medicare. Now we're embracing Medicare for all as though Medicare was actually a good idea, right? But there's plenty of Republicans who are looking to expand Social Security, but Social Security is a socialist program, is it not?
I actually don't. I mean, you could probably find one for me, but I'm kind of doing a mental roll call. I don't know anyone that calls himself a Republican that wants to expand Social Security. I've seen where they've allowed it to happen, or they voted for it, but to say that they want to do it, I haven't. Like I said, there may be somebody, but I couldn't tell you. You have to give me some names of people who
I'm not
that want to expand Social Security.
Ask an older person, someone in well above their 65 age. Ask them how they feel about getting rid of Social Security.
You just said get rid of Social Security. That's a big difference.
That's a different, yeah. See, once you're 65, you don't have the ability to make it back. Okay, you've already got all of your life investment set up based on a set of rules and regulations that existed. Like them, dislike them, whatever. That's what you've got. So, of course, if you say to somebody over 65, we're going to get rid of everything you put all your financial plans on, boom. Yeah, they're going to be upset. Okay.
I'm not talking about the consumers here. I'm talking about Republican lawmakers who have embraced this idea of Medicare, who have talked about certain taxes on different products and those types of things. I personally know of a couple of Republicans in the Minnesota House who flirted with the idea of a gas tax or a tobacco tax for certain things.
We're fighting it too here. We're fighting it too here. And gasoline right now is $5 a gallon in California. Okay, go take a look at how popular that gas tax is right now in California.
Sure. But unfortunately, they're never around to get the credit for what their policies have done. Tim,
I think they are in California.
Let me be very careful on this, because Tim, I give you a lot of credit, and you've been kind of the whipping boy on this show. You are conservative. Yeah, we disagree on certain things. But you are a conservative, and we appreciate having you in the. There's some things that I disagree with you on, but you're a whole lot more conservative than most of the Republicans out there. Okay, and so I want to be very, very careful about that. But we can't fight back socialism if we are offering socialism light, right? But we also have to be out here explaining to this next generation, this is where socialism gets us, and this is how we fix it. I mean, we're looking at little things like $15 an hour minimum wage, for example, right? Well, isn't it interesting that you look at places that have enacted this $15 an hour minimum wage, and they're leading the nation in homelessness? Well, how could that be? How could it be that you enact something like a $15 minimum wage, people are making more money, yet some reason people are losing their homes, people are living on the street? How is that possible? But unfortunately, people aren't putting two and two together.
Here's one of the things I'll push back on you with is I agree there needs to be education. It needs to be education at a very fundamental level. When we can't get civics taught or history taught in our schools, you're gonna have generational disconnects. But here's a positive thing that I want to infuse on this overall. We're just circling the drain sort of thing. Life has a way of coming in. We get it. We get our college degree. We do this. We do that. Whatever. We get a job. We get a career. We get married. We have kids. We start growing older. Okay. How many people? And I'd love to see the statistics on this. How many people over the age of? I'll throw it high. I'll say over the age of 45. Okay. How many people over the age of 45 truly embrace socialism as taught by Bernie Sanders? Don't get away from the people in the media that talk about it in MSNBC or political leaders who espouse it and stuff like that. I'm talking your neighbor, the people that you work with, whatever. Just the average person who embraces it. None of them. You know why? Because real life has slapped them in the face and they said, you know what? I better step up and get a real job and work hard if I want to get ahead to provide for my family and actually excel in life. And here in the United States, you have those opportunities. So if you really want to say that socialism is going to take over in the United States, you're going to have to dismantle those opportunities before you can truly get there. You can get a lot of young people charged up. You can get movements going and stuff like that. But right now, I'm telling you, the reason why I'm optimistic, we're still a few months away from November, right? A lot can happen, I suppose. But you are witnessing firsthand the dismantling of all these things that we've been fearing for about 8 to 10 years now, because it's finally shown up and people are saying, oh my goodness, what exactly is this really? This is not what I want. And socialism is falling apart before our eyes right now. And it's going to happen in this election. I'm telling you.
I would love to believe that. I would love to believe that.
We'll find out. Right?
Well,
and if you're not watching what's going on with that coronavirus and how government provided healthcare is dealing with it, I mean, oh my goodness, that is, you know what I'm saying?
Okay. I know. I agree. I do understand that, but it's up to us to tie those things together. Unfortunately, the average American is looking at this and they're saying, "Oh my gosh, I need to give to the Red Cross to try to help these people." Which is great, do that. They're not looking at it.
Welding doors shut is not medical care. Slapping people in the face, tying them to poles in the street, and shaming them is not medical care.
But how many times have you seen that on CNN or MSNBC or even on Bloomberg or even on Fox, right? How many times have you seen that? So the average American who is living life, going to work, coming home, turning on the news for 30 minutes to watch, the 10 o'clock news is not seeing that. So therefore, they're not putting two and two together, right? I would love to believe that, Tim, but we'll find out. But when you have people like AOC that are being elected and reelected, when you have people like,
do you see there's 8 Democrats running against her?
Oh, and you know what? And we'll soon find out. I think she's going to be reelected, and you know what?
Wait till you see what happens with Ilhan Omar here in Minnesota.
And you know what? And
Tim, that's what I was hoping to hear more about. Oh yeah, really, I would love to hear more about that.
So give us a little. So Tim, you're the one who's given us this overwhelming, optimistic outlook. So do you honestly believe that in that district, probably, I would argue, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that the district that elected Ilhan Omar might be the most liberal district in the United States?
Yes.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, but it's going to be a Democrat that beats her.
Okay, and so you do believe that she's going to be beating the primary?
I don't think she's even going to make it to the election, but if she makes it to the primary, she's going to lose. Okay. And I don't have inside information like I'm on the campaign team doing this. I'm telling you that the people that are working in the system in that district, which by the way, the Democrat that's going to beat her, here's the great news and then the awful news. The woman who's running against her in the Democrat primary is a freedom-loving, opportunity in the U.S. believing immigrant who says you don't want to have what's in Somalia. America is great because of who she is and what she does. That's the great news. The only bad news is this same person firmly supports Bernie Sanders. So we'll work on her. We'll work on her with that. But seriously, though, here's one of the things, and this isn't going to be popular in our local town here, because if I say anything optimistic about Somalis around here, I usually get on social media about how I've sold out to that community, which is just sad. But anyway, the Somali community in Minneapolis, where Ilhan Omar represents, they hate her. Okay, she's embarrassed them. She does not reflect their interests. She's abandoned them in a lot of different ways. And this woman who's running against her has captured all that support. Okay, so I'm not going to be the fortune teller for November and say what happens. That's why I contrasted 4 years ago. I've been down on politics, negative of the future. You've heard me talk a lot about that. Okay. Not seeing a whole lot of opportunity for good happening. And literally what I've seen even in the past couple months has caused me to have a little bit of hope. And then I'm like, well, don't have hope, because hope gets crushed, right? Now I'm just flat out optimistic. And like I said, that last debate, where a debate shouldn't have to mean as much as, debates don't mean a lot in presidential elections. But what happened to Bloomberg in that last debate, and then Bernie, Nevada was supposed to be the place where Bernie started fading and he gained steam there. So the Democrats in the Minnesota House of Representatives and the Minnesota Senate just booted their minority leader, who was a moderate, and they put in one of the most liberal women in the Senate to run the Senate Democrats. They're all in on this. They're still coming forward with gun control. They're still coming in with comprehensive sex education. They're still coming in with tax and regulate and tax. Okay, they're in their own echo chamber, and I'm seeing everyone just look at them and say, "Okay, you wait to see what happens in November." There was the last. I didn't read the article. I had some people that forwarded this to me, but there was someone at the last Trump rally. What was that, a couple days ago? I lose track.
Yeah,
during
right.
The Trump one during the last debate that he did.
Right.
There was a stats guy, and I didn't read the article, so I can't articulate it really clearly. But here's the part that I remembered. They said they have pretty solid proof that about 20%, 26% of those in attendance supporting Trump at his rally are Democrats. There is word that Donald Trump is probably going to get upwards of 50% of the black vote. And if he gets 50% of the black vote, I guarantee you there's zero chance the Democrats are going to win the presidency. I'm not saying he's going to get that, but these are the numbers that, like, the pundits, the people that look at this stuff and, whatever it's worth, they're the ones that usually show us all the pessimistic numbers. They're the ones that are saying this. So, yeah, I'm a little bit optimistic right now.
Well, Soder, Tim is starting to sound a little bit like me, because I've been saying for over a year now that he was going to get over 30%. 50% sounds a little bit overly optimistic, but I love your enthusiasm, though, at the same time. But I do believe that it will be over 30% of the black vote. I've seen it. I'm hearing it. Don't believe the talking heads on the TV and in the media. Black people are watching what's being done. They're watching the amount of money that Trump has put into saving historically black colleges. They're seeing black unemployment. They're seeing black home ownership rates go up. They're seeing Black people being given a second chance with this prison reform bill that was put forth. He's done more for blacks in the United States than any other president since Lincoln. And I hate saying that because you know how I feel about Lincoln. So Trump,
he's your favorite, just like he's my favorite, right?
No, I'm not a big fan of Lincoln.
Thank you.
So if I tell you I went to the Lincoln Day dinner last night, you probably would not be impressed.
I wouldn't be impressed. I wouldn't, but you know what? You are the mother of Stephen Powell, so you've suffered enough. So I wouldn't. But Tim, you have to go.
Yep, I have to go.
Okay.
Right.
Well, hey, thank you so much,
Representative.
Good to meet you too. Hey, now what? I'm sorry, you're Dr.
B.
Dr. B. Okay. It was a pleasure to have you on here. I like the way you talk. They may actually get me tricked back into coming a little bit if you're on the show more. Although we might outnumber them. So
Yeah. Well, I would be interested in learning a little bit more what's going on in your legislature, because it sounds like there's just certain things that start happening across different states. And I think it's helpful for to get that interaction.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. When I go to conferences with legislators from other states, I always find it fascinating. So I've talked to some legislators in California. It's pretty tough in California for any Republican, no matter where they're on the Republican side. It's pretty tough, but hopefully that'll change soon too.
Well, next time I get you on, Tim, I want to talk to you about right now. There's a push in Western Minnesota, which is very conservative, to formulate greater South Dakota. And I know that sounds like a long shot, but on a national scale, we're seeing greater Idaho becoming a thing and being put on the ballot in certain counties, certain places in Northern California, and also west or eastern Oregon wanting to be to formulate a greater Idaho.
I've been saying 5 or 6 years now, I want everything west of Highway 71 to become a new state called Minnesota.
Well, and actually it's picking up traction. I've heard a lot of people talking about that. So
that'd be great.
But yeah, I'd love to.
Before Tim leaves, I just want to say something. You know, when you hear people talk about the horrible billionaires, the one thing to always remember is those billionaires, except for maybe Hunter Biden, those billionaires didn't become billionaires by doing nothing.
That's right.
You have to serve the masses. And irrespective of how I might feel about John Kerry, the Heinz family made a product that appealed to the common. I mean, like, it's almost impossible to go into somebody's house and not find ketchup. Okay? I mean, that's how they made their money, was serving the masses. People who serve the masses live with the classes. Jeff Bezos, is he a billionaire? Oh, heck yeah. Is it disgusting? Oh, heck yeah. But you know what? He has a product that virtually everybody uses. And he's made other millionaires along with him.
That's right.
So you can't, anytime somebody says billionaires are evil, well, not the ones that made their money in the market. Now, there's a few that made their money in government. That's another matter. But the ones that made their money originally, even Rockefellers, they sold a product that was used by the average person that made them billions. That's how they got to be billionaires.
Yeah.
Amen.
All right, Tim. Well, thank you so much. We'll look forward to having you back on to visit a little bit. And if you think that Dr. B is great, you got to meet her husband, her other half. He's pretty fantastic too. So we might even have a Boomer takeover stream where we let you guys talk about, I don't know, whatever it is that you Boomers talk about when you guys, we'll have to do it like
Cialis and catheter tubes.
No, that's the New Deal generation.
I don't know. I am less than 12 months away from the Perkins senior deal. I can't wait.
We'll have to do it at like.
Oh, he is so young. Yeah,
Well,
We'll
that
have
poor
to,
guy. You think
remember,
you think that poor guy's the same age as me? Well, that's so wrong.
we'll have to
He's a young guy.
we'll have to have the stream soda at like 7:00 in the morning and have coffee and prune juice.
Yeah, the reality
like-
is I don't have anything to do. It's past my bedtime. I have to go to bed now.
Hey, Q, we've got to do a live stream from the Capitol very soon because the session's what, about halfway over now?
No,
Approximately?
not quite. It goes until about May. I thought I heard May 18th, which sounds a little bit early, but it'll be about 3 weeks into May.
All right.
Okay, so we have a little time, but we got to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm down with doing that. That would be a lot of fun. So he's invited us down and said that he'll give us the presidential tour. So yeah, I'd love to see that. So as long as I'm allowed to wear my MAGA hat as I walk through there.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Cool. Thanks. Have a good one, Tim.
Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
All right. This is a good time for us to go through some super chats before we get into
Yeah, it is. All right, first up, Bad Dragonite for $2, but no message. I don't know why.
Well, thank you, Bad Dragonite.
But thank you anyway. Osmodius, our whale, is coming back. $5. Happy you're back on the show, Dr. B. Your son writes beautiful fan fiction, and you should have him read it to you sometime. Oh dear. Oh dear. Up next, we have Sandra Derugi with super chat for $14.99. 20.00. I do not know what that means.
$20 is $20.
Well, that's it's $20 for only a cent less than $15. Should say, well, $14.99 is $20.
20 Canadian dollars.
There you go.
All right. Up next, Peter. Is it Peter Pete? $5 super chat. SSI is socialist. People hate it unless it benefits them. Let's get rid of welfare. Couldn't agree more.
And
finally,
but if you do it, you have to grandfather in the existing generation, because they sit people who are in their 60s and 70s and beyond. They're not going to go back to work at this point, and they've got all their financial plans laid out based on their Social Security.
COVID-19 might take care of that problem for us. So
that's true. That's true.
One can hope.
Oh, stop it! Don't say that.
It's gonna be a Band-Aid that has to get ripped off at some point, and it's gonna screw someone over. And
well, I mean, you got to think. I mean, where do you
people like Tim will go? People are gonna die, but people are gonna die.
But where do you draw? I want to. Are we done with super chats?
No, we have one left.
Okay, because let me write it down while you're reading that.
It's also about Social Security, so it's on topic. Orgasmic Whales for $2. Always disregard a boomer's opinion on the SQ.
No.
Okay.
If you were like I said, if you were able to amortize, take people who are like perhaps in their 40s and 50s, amortize that with investments, cut it off at like say 60 or maybe 58, or maybe give people like in the 57 to 62-year-old range a choice whether they want to go with the older or the younger. People in the next age group, give them an opportunity to roll that over into a private sector asset. People under 50, maybe under 45, I'd have to look at the numbers. Those people you would want to getting them to roll in the assets.
So the problem is that how do you continue
there's a plan to do it.
How do you continue to fund it if you are not having younger people paying into it? Because I'm not going to continue to pay into it if I'm not going to collect it, right? So if you don't have new dollars flowing into it, how do you continue to fund it?
Well, and that's now then that's where you start getting into you start phasing out the what do you call that tax? It's part of Mr. FICA, right?
Yeah.
So you start phasing that out.
Okay.
And let's be realistic. You know, if you're going to pay it out of your general income tax, or you're going to pay it out of the special tax anyway. So you can start phasing it out at that point. And you're talking what, 50? How many centenarians are you going to actually see out of that? And nobody's going to begrudge a centenarian their Medicare or their Social Security. I mean, there'll be like what, 10 of them, 20 of them? No, I mean, no. Let's be honest.
Well,
that's why I say it's a Band-Aid that it's going to be horrible, because
Right.
to end it, the way it's set up, it's going to screw over young people.
it already has.
People like him say, well,
already
they
has.
paid in all their life. Yeah,
It's screwed my
has. So,
generation. So,
again, I
it is
don't
what
want
it
old
is.
people to die, but the matter of the fact is, it's going to need to be cut at some point. And whoever is older than a certain period of time is going to get, or younger than a certain period of time, but in that they haven't put anything aside for themselves, they're going to get
Right.
screwed over. The young people, and doubly so, because they're going to have, if it's 45, those people who have been paying in for that, 20, 30 years that they've been working, and they're cut off, they're going to have to continue to pay for anyone who is 46 or older, and they're not going to be able to see anything. And then finally, when it's, finally after 50 years or whatever.
Can I ask you something? Of the $2 billion that went to Ukraine, how much of a benefit did you see out of it?
Well, that wasn't part of a program. That was a Ponzi scheme. So
That's not
I
the
feel
point.
terrible about it, but it's a different thing.
Our government spends money all the time on things that I don't see a direct benefit out of, and neither probably do you. Okay? I mean, there's a point where you got to say, look, if we're going to end the program and we're going to do it in a way that is socially acceptable, you don't end it by cutting off grandma and giving Democrats a talking point that is going to, they want to throw grandma off the cliff.
Okay, yeah. I
get
what you're saying, and I'm not disagreeing with you. What I'm saying, though, is that it's going to screw someone over, and it's going to have to be on a timeline that it's never going to actually happen. Because we can pass something today saying, okay, anyone older than 45 can still draw on Social Security. You're 44, you're screwed. You're never going to, you have to keep paying into it until everyone else is dead, but you're never going to be able to partake in it.
No, I totally get that.
Where was I? I was going to say
That's
something else.
That's what I'm saying. You take economic value.
50 years worth of legislations that can happen, that can stop it. That's why I think it just needs to stop now, because it's never going to come to fruition, ever.
What you do is you take what you have paid in thus far and you amateurize it. You put it in an account that either you can invest
money's
in.
Not there anymore, though. It's gone. It's out the door already.
Well, let me ask you this: what if they were to do something like this? You are the economic guru, but what if they were to do something like? What if they were to offer younger people tax credits for the monies that they've paid into to offset their tax debt and their tax bill?
That's a possibility. But here's the big problem with the tax credit. If you don't have an income, how do you use the tax credit?
Well, if you don't have an income, you're not having that money taken out of your check. So
yeah, you do. If you're making a wage where you're able to take the standard deduction, okay?
Sure.
If you take the standard deduction and then you're going to offer an additional tax credit, you've got to make more than the standard deduction allows to be able to use that tax credit.
But typically those people are already receiving more in a refund than they actually put into the system, though. We call those zero liability voters.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it gets complicated. There's a couple different ways you could go. Another option is you can assign certain asset values of public properties. Auction them off or whatever. I mean, there's all kinds of different ways you could go about it. I mean, nobody would want to give up an acre of Yosemite, but maybe we could sell an acre of Yosemite and pay off a certain group of people. You get what I'm saying? I think the other problem too is Social Security, and this is legit, is you have people, and I hate this is going to sound racist, but you have people who come over here from third world countries, or not even third world, just from other countries.
That's whole.
And they are, no, not necessarily shithole countries. They're any country that's not the U.S. And they become a citizen like right before their 60th birthday, and boy, they're on SSI. And they're on Social Security for the duration. It's like, what?
Well, real quick, Peter Pete asked, why is it fair that we must pay for them? I don't want SSI. I save now $2,000 a month for my early retirement. It's not the young fault. Old people didn't save. That's for $5. Thank you, Peter Pete. Then he also says, in Jamaica, we don't have welfare programs. Every person for themselves. And many countries are that way.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I agree with you that we have a lot of people. I mean, I look at my grandmother, for example. My grandmother has been paying into Social Security on a promise that was made by the government that if she continued to let this money be taken out of her check, which she had no control over and wasn't allowed to opt out of, that if she continued to have this money taken out of her check, that there would be a portion of that money made available to her later in life.
That's right.
That was a promise that was made. I understand that. As much as it sucks for those of us that are left holding the bag, but Soder, let's be honest.
It was a promise made by themselves that their children would pay it off. Let's be honest about that.
But let's also be honest about it. Okay, I'm not going to dox you, but look at how much you and I pay in property taxes that go to local school districts, and our kids don't go to school in those local school districts, right? So I mean, it's similar. Our kids don't go to school, but yet we're constantly paying into that. So I mean, you are correct, Dr. B, that a lot of us pay specifically for things that we don't have the ability to collect from, right? So we've accepted that in some ways. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. But unfortunately, that's where we're at. We have to figure out, though, how do we end it? How do we? It's gonna hurt. It's going to hurt.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know which politician is going to be willing to commit that political suicide by ending it, because it is going to be vicious when it takes place.
Well, just like Representative Miller said, it's a program that has developed a very powerful constituency.
Sure.
And let's be honest, old people like me, we ain't working. So we got plenty of time to call every stinking representative, and we can call them 2-3 times a day and tell them, whatever, you know what I'm saying? And then we have these little organizations like AARP and AMAP and all these other things. And, there's a whole nother bunches of lobbying groups and constituencies that will make it virtually impossible to ever get rid of Social Security.
And so in these programs are socialist programs, right? That are they are. I mean, and these are programs that receive support, and that's the reason why I brought that up to our legislator, Mr.
Let
Miller.
Let me temper that a little bit, though. It's one thing to say they're socialist programs, and indeed they are. But there's a reason why we have that particular socialist style program. And that's because of what became apparent in the risk reward ratio that was going on as a result of the crash of 1929.
Sure.
That's why we had a whole lot of revisions in our banking system, and it was the horribleness of what went on during the Great Depression that brought about the Social Security system. So before people get too against it, or get too caught up in tearing the program apart, and I'm not going to sit here and advocate for socialism, I'm not. But what I'm saying is that there is a greater wisdom here that was left from my parents' generation with this program.
I just
And
got
it has to do more with risk assessment in terms of investments.
I just got a private message from someone saying socialism, our Social Security is not socialism. Where do you think it got its name? Let's be very, very honest. Okay. It is
Part of the social safety net.
it is a social safety net, right? That was put in place. I get it. It had in a lot of ways it had good intentions, right? I mean, let's be honest. I guess it had good intentions. The problem is that just like everything else that the government controls, it is inefficient and it ain't working, right? The government can't even run a successful mail delivery system. And these are the people we want to give more power to. I mean, I'm looking right now, and I wanted to bring this up and talk to you. I know we've got to move along here, but we're looking right now at this whole Green New Deal. This is something that is going to require a major overhaul of all of our infrastructure, right?
That is something to be worried about.
I mean, we're looking at trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars rebuilding buildings that are perfectly good buildings. Getting rid of it's going to touch everything from New York to our farm communities and the way we farm, the way that we raise livestock. It is probably the most invasive, intrusive program that has ever been proposed.
It's forced veganism.
It is. So tell me this though. I mean, in one voice, I might say, that's just hogwash. It'll never happen. But again, if someone would have told you when you were in college that the day would come where something like this would actually be proposed and that there would be candidates running on it as a platform, you would have never believed it. You would have never believed this 40 years ago, would you?
Yes.
Well,
history is very interesting. What goes around comes around. Okay. I mean, things come back. The difference was when 40 years ago, we were going to be all in an ice age by 1989. I don't know if you realize that or not. I mean, I spent my early childhood hearing not only about nuclear winter, but winter that was going to be caused by carbon fossil fuels. Okay.
Right.
It was going to cause climate change. We were going to have a new ice age. We were going to freeze to death, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden it occurred to me, the arrogance of man to believe that we can so regulate the weather. There's cloud seeding. There's a few other little weather modification programs, but they are not capable on the scale or scope of what the climate model predicts of these Green New Deal people. And I'm going to tell you what I really think is behind the Green New Deal and all this climate change hoax. If you take a look, where did Barack Obama buy his new house? On the coast in Boston. Where does Al Gore live? On prime property on the coast of Florida. He's not living in the hills of Tennessee. Let me tell you, if you honestly believe the oceans are going to rise and we're going to be all like water world, destroyed planet, would you be on the hilltops of Tennessee or would you be in the coastal plains of Florida? I mean, come on, they don't even believe their own crap. This is propaganda.
They're trying to get that insurance money. Come on, you know that.
No, They're trying to drive people off coastal lands, lower the price of what I would call, prime real estate. Okay. That's what this is all about. This is about grabbing up the coastlines. Because if you grab the coastlines up, you can regulate what goes in and out. It's about power.
That sounds like a pretty powerful conspiracy theory, though.
Really? Okay, so if you're AOC and you represent Brooklyn, New York, which is on the coast, and you honestly believe climate change is going to destroy Brooklyn, what should you be doing? Trying to ban carbon and fossil fuels, or should you be proposing an evacuation plan for Brooklyn and a resettlement plan? I mean, if she really believes what she believes, that the world is going to die in 2025 or 2030 or whatever year it is, she should be proposing plans right now to relocate people in Brooklyn to like the hills of, in the Rocky Mountains or, wherever, somewhere off the coast. I mean, good grief, if Brooklyn's going to be a swamp or it's going to be destroyed by climate change, let's get those people out of there if you really believe it.
It does beg to.
I mean, if you really believe what she's saying, and if Bernie Sanders really believes the Green New Deal, why is he flying first class? If Michael Bloomberg really believes in the Green New Deal and climate change and all that good stuff, why is he flying his private jet to Bermuda every other weekend? Just asking.
Because they can. That would be.
Because they don't believe it. They don't really believe it. That's a crock.
I'm assuming that would be the answer, is because they can. But there are, I would even say that there are people that I'm related to who've bought into this idea that the problem are the billionaires. The problem is, the problem is the billionaires. Yeah. The problem is that billionaires are running the country, that lobbying is running the country, which there's a lot to be said about that, and we can unpack that at another time. But this argument that we can pay for all of these programs, that we can make a fair nation, a fair economy, a happier middle class, bring back the robust middle class, simply by asking or forcing, the ultra wealthy to pay their fair share, and to pay more from the 1%. How does that work? From an economic standpoint, how does that work? Because we're talking about people who pay more for lawyers to help them avoid the higher taxes, right? They pay more to lawyers to reduce their tax liability than most people will probably make in their lifetime. This is every single year.
It's actually a sport in some instances. Okay?
But they're still
These
paying.
People they can move their money around. Capital is mobile. You can move your money around. If one country doesn't give you faith, that was the one thing. If you go back at the very beginning of the Trump administration, that was one of the things he was trying to do, was bring the capital home. Because of marginal tax rates in the United States, most of the capital that business corporations were holding, they were holding it overseas. Because if they brought it back in the United States, it would be at a higher tax rate. How bad is it when a communist country like China has a lower tax rate than the United States? Why do people think all these businesses went to China? It was to avoid U.S. taxation, because the taxes in communist China were lower than what was in the United States. Duh, does anybody not? Capital is going to move where it is most productive. And if you raise taxes higher than XYZ country, XYZ country is going to say, hey, guess what, guys? We have lower taxes. Come.
Well, but we look at we have to be willing to give because these people, what they're asking for
Mhm.
is not. I don't feel like it's outside of. It's humane, right? I don't feel that what they're asking for is unrealistic. I just feel that what these people, the Bernie people, for example, we paint them as being these lazy, good for nothing, just want
Oh, they're
something
not
free.
lazy.
And they're not. They're not. A lot of these
No.
people are very, very good people who just believe in fairness, right? And we know that life's not fair, right? We know that things aren't always fair, but there are private market solutions to what they are looking for. And I feel that Trump has done a good job of bringing about some of these private market solutions. He's just done a very terrible job of selling it. I get so ticked off the fact that Trump will spend more time arguing with Greta Thunberg or whatever her name is than he will breaking down and explaining what he is doing for the economy. I haven't heard him once talk about how he has brought trillions of dollars back into the country by simply allowing the tax window to be open for a short period of time so that these trillions of dollars
And
could be
getting rid of
repatriated, right?
and getting rid of Dodd-Frank. I mean,
Getting rid of
Dodd-Frank
Dodd
was
Frank,
horrible.
lowering corporate interest rates, right? Not corporate, corporate tax rates, right? Cutting regulations so that businesses could actually grow, that they could thrive, and as the businesses did better, guess what? They had to hire more people, right?
Yeah.
Which cutting taxes on the everyday person, would you rather have 10% tax on 1 million people or 5% tax on 300 million people? Well, the more people that go back to work, the larger that those tax rolls become. But that does take time. It does take time.
Yeah.
But I don't see him selling that very well, right? And I
I
get it.
don't right now, but you will see it. If it comes down to a Sanders, Bloomberg, a Sanders, Trump showdown, you will see it. Let me give you another piece of insight here, too. How much have you really looked at the Bloomberg attack campaign on Trump? How much have you really looked at it? What has been his arguments against Trump?
That he only cares about the rich and not the regular people.
Bloomberg? No.
I'm sorry, Bernie.
Not Bernie, Bloomberg. Okay.
Okay, right.
Bloomberg, what is his argument against Trump? Besides the fact that he wants gun control and Trump is for the NRA.
Well,
Outside of that,
he doesn't care about black people and people of color. That's been a huge portion of it.
Is that what Bloomberg says about Trump?
Oh yeah. Did you not see the Super Bowl commercials? I mean, he was talking about all types of fairness and how Trump has not created the same opportunities for people of color as he has for other people, and people of color are suffering as a result of it.
Well, I guess with justice reform, he's going to have a hard time making that argument. If you take a look at his ads in places like Arizona, like he has billboards that say things like Donald Trump eats burnt steak. Yeah, and he uses ketchup with it too. Huh? I mean,
he lost my vote. Oh God.
No, but I mean, that's not how you pick a president. You don't pick a president based on how well done somebody likes their steak. Okay, whether they eat ketchup with it or not. There's a lot of guys out there who eat well done steak with ketchup. I don't. I eat mine probably more like Bloomberg does, a little bit on the rare side. That's not the point. That is. I don't care how Bloomberg wants his steak, but the kind of arguments that Bloomberg is making against Trump outside in his attack Trump ads are really kind of bizarre. And there's too much on record showing that Bloomberg actually likes Trump. So I'm not so certain that how serious Bloomberg's candidacy really is. You know,
Um,
I got to be honest with you. I'm not sure how. I mean, yeah, he's spending a lot of money, but to him, it's chump change.
True. I mean, for an ego maniac, for an egotistic narcissist, he might pay that much money to see himself on TV. You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't profile the man. I don't know him from Adam, but it is interesting. It is interesting. But I think that we have to talk about these things because I think as we have these conversations, we realize that if we are going to fight socialism tooth and nail, and we are going to root it out of our system, that we're not just going to piss off the Democrats. We're going to piss off a lot of
Republicans too.
There's going to be a lot of pissed off Republicans. Going to be a lot of pissed off baby boomers, right?
When I fought Common Core, you would be shocked at the number of Republicans that attacked me. I was mortified. I just, what? I mean, it's like, are you kidding? We should be teaching free enterprise. Oh no, I couldn't believe some of the higher powered Republican representatives actually attacked me on how on what I was trying to do to change the Common Core standards to get rid of the political nature of the standards.
Well,
these are I was a lot of some of the biggest resistance I got was from the GOP, not from the Dems. The Dems just sat back and enjoyed the show.
If you think that's bad, try having a conversation with your Republican friends about Trump cutting, what was it, $8.5 billion in school funding in order to increase charter schools, right? And to grow the charter school program. Even something as simple as our public school system and revamping that. And doing away with the public school system as we know it. You're going to get a lot of pushback from, I mean, look at what Bush gave us. Bush gave us No Child Left Behind, right? So
you mean no child allowed to read. Look, let me tell you the biggest thing that's going to happen here. This coronavirus is, and it's already happened in China. The coronavirus hit. They had to shut down the schools. How are they teaching classes now online? Who's at home? The parents. You have all these parents are suddenly in there looking and seeing what their kids are being taught online in school. And it is shaking things up, let me tell you. I mean, it really is shaking things up. And I want you to think about things for a second. You have some kind of situation where, like, the coronavirus closes down schools. Everybody's in quarantine, and you have to do online education, and the parents are home, and the parents are actually sitting there with their kids, listening to what is going on in school. That's going to give a lot of people a fresh start. It's going to be an eye-opening experience, I'm telling you. I'm not rooting for the virus, but I'm just telling you that God has a way of revealing things. And I'm telling you, a lot of this stuff is going to be revealed. I mean, you're going to see some drastic changes. Once you have that going on, you're just going to be opening up a whole new dimension. Because a lot of times right now, people aren't paying attention.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? They're not clued in. They're working, they're doing their best to get home, get dinner, get the kids to bed by 7 o'clock, maybe have a half hour before you have to go to bed, and maybe watch a Joe Rogan podcast or something, go to bed, get up, 5 o'clock in the morning, get up, do it all over again. You know?
I'm not sure if that Joe Rogan reference was
no, whatever it is you want to listen to, you know.
I'm not, well, the joke I was trying to make was, I don't know if that's like you listen to them and you know that's what the young people like, or it's like when I told my mom I wanted to get a video game system, she's, "You're not getting a Nintendo," and I wanted a Sega.
We have a very beautiful
Every
sunset
video game
tonight.
was a Nintendo to my mother, so I was curious if that was the Joe Rogan. Like every podcast the young people listen to is Joe Rogan.
Well, you
No,
bring up a very
just the people that are just underneath the boomers are Joe Rogan listeners. Young people don't listen to Joe Rogan.
you bring up a very interesting point, because I made the decision to change some things about my children's education and the direction we were going with their education when I decided to take my son on a hunting trip. And we got all this schoolwork for the entire week, and we went hunting. And we sat in our deer blind over about 2 hours, and we did his entire week's worth of schoolwork in 2 hours in our deer blind. And I thought to myself, we're paying how much money for you to go to the school, and this is what you do for the entire week that we did in 2 hours of just getting it done? I don't think that's very efficient when you look at what we pay, right?
Mhm.
And so, yeah, you're right. When parents are forced to actually put the time in and realize this is what my child's being taught, this is what they are getting, and this is what we are getting out of that system. You might be forced to have to make some tough decisions at that point.
Kind of
You're going to
sounds like
see
you
a
just
lot
called
of.
teachers
a lot
overpaid babysitters.
No, I don't think that. I think that there's a lot of things that even teachers would like to tell you, but they can't.
I just don't know if it's always the best way. I don't think it's always the best way to educate a child when you put 30 children in one classroom who all have various different ways of learning, and you expect one teacher to be able to communicate to each one of those children and to be able to give them what they need in order to be productive citizens.
But let's get beyond that. Just wait till they see the contents and what they're being taught in American history. Holy cow!
Yeah. I mean, it's very, very interesting. So I'm curious to see how all those things happen and the unintended consequences as a result of that. But I do appreciate you being willing to come out here and to join us. We live in interesting times. We live in very, very interesting times, and I would have never guessed that we would be in a time where, I mean, I was taught what socialism and communism was from a very young age, and I just figured I had a conversation on our way to a wrestling meet today with my son about communism, about socialism, and he said, "Dad, it sounds like a lot of people that they just want to keep people poor because it's easier to control them." And this is my 8-year-old, right?
Yeah.
that I'm explaining socialism to him. He's like, it just sounds like that the less money people have and the more free stuff people get, that they're more controllable. Why do people allow themselves to be controlled by the government? And I thought, if we actually are willing to take the time and truly explain what is happening, I believe that a lot of people would come to the light and actually change their mind on what it is that they are voting for, right? But
have you read a book by Frederick Bastiat called The Law?
I have not.
It is the words of a dying man refuting communist takeover in France. I highly recommend. That is the single most effective book to fight communism. And it's actually, you can get it on a PDF as a free book.
All right.
It was written in the 1800s. It's called The Law by Frederick Bastiat. And to me, if you're a conservative, it's required reading. In the early days of the Tea Party, we used to hand that book out right and left.
Well, I would definitely take a gander. Soder, if you can find a copy of that, a free copy, let's put it up on the Discord.
Already pulling it up right now.
All right, let's put it up in the Discord. But hey, I think we have a couple of super chats we need to get to, and then we're going to
You're just making me do so. If only I had my third screen, I could do all this all at the same time.
It always comes back to my fault.
I drive by your office, no one's there, and then I find out that you're in South Dakota or down in Texas.
Stop doxing me.
All right, first super chat from our good whale Osmodeus. You guys, I get it. Just sunset the old people.
Wow, Jesus.
I mean, they kind of do sunset themselves, so
yes. Patience will take care of the problem. You don't have to pull a Filipini on
it. Did you just reference Philip Haney?
He did. She
did.
Oh my goodness.
I did.
Oh boy.
Why? Do you want to talk about it?
Let's get through the super chats first. Up next, Peter Pete for $2. Well, old people are living too long anyways. I don't know. They maybe a little bit, but not that much.
Sounds like somebody doesn't have grandparents anymore.
Yeah. And up last, Osmodeus once again for $2. Let's also acknowledge the economic principle that taxes on corporations are passed directly onto the consumer. Tax Amazon a dollar on everything they sell. They'll raise their prices on everything by $1 to compensate.
Amen.
Corporations don't pay taxes, consumers do. That is absolutely 100% correct. So thank you very much.
Yep.
Inflation, it's hidden tax.
You guys are going to have to stop red pilling people on this show. It's not called Out of the Red Pill. Okay, but I'm what's up with this whole Philip Haney thing? I'm hearing a lot about Philip Haney today. Was it Stephen Powell that brought up Philip Haney earlier? Soder in the Discord?
I'm not sure if it was me or him. I just referenced it because there were some people in the area who are very upset that he's dead.
Yeah. Out of the black pill. Yeah, that might not go over too well with the people over at
what's out of the black pill?
Someone just said out of the dark pill, out of the black pill as possible titles for.
Yeah, but what's out of that pill? That's what I'm curious about.
Probably
is it a white pill or something?
I probably these little factoids that you guys are dropping on people, trying to educate them. Things like
the hashtag Philip Haney, hashtag Haney didn't kill himself.
Hashtag Haney didn't kill himself.
No, it's on Twitter.
Yeah, we're gonna
go to the
hashtag. So, well, I tell you what, it is a pleasure. Thank you so much for making yourself available. Tell Senior Mario.
We'll tell him he was missed.
He was very much missed. Thank you guys so much for being here, for joining us. We've just been reminded that we are up against Better Call Saul, so we want to let you guys get to watching that, I guess. And we're going to let you go. But thank you so much. Hey, guys, if you are not currently subscribed to the channel, be sure to press that little little bell there. Subscribe to the channel. Make sure you like the show, like the video. And we will be back next week with a great show. But thank you so much for taking time to be with us tonight. Thank you very much, Stephen, for helping us get your mom here and being a phenomenal engineer. Thank you for helping us with that. We appreciate it. And Soder, always a pleasure. Thank you, sir, for all that you do as well. So we'll look forward to seeing you guys next week. God bless. Have a very safe week.
Thank you. God bless you all.